Okay, so I just wanted to give you an example of a properly adjusted stock 3rd gen e-brake setup versus a very similar rear disc brake conversion on this truck. This is a 98, this is a 97, so the setups should be very, very similar. This one uses the Cobra Mustang with the custom bracket and 4th gen rotors, and let me show you what this setup looks like. It's very similar to the conversation that's going on in this thread. My only disappointment is that this one locks up the tires like I think it should, where you really have to muscle this one, and I'll show you why that is. I think there may be an improvement to it, and hopefully someone can have a suggestion. Thank you. Okay, let's look at this from back to front. We're looking at the rear axle assembly. I'm gonna kind of try to use the light to kind of go over. So this has gone through a winter, so it's a little rusty. Everything looked brand new last fall, but the rust really takes its toll. So the ABS sensors, you can see this. The ABS sensors are in there. And I can tell you that by driving this truck versus the stock with the ABS enabled with the rear disc brakes, which are Cobra Mustang calipers, in this orientation, the ABS works absolutely perfectly in the snow and ice in Minnesota. There's absolutely no issue with it. The ABS turns on and pulses when you would want it to. You can't really avoid it in Minnesota. That's just the fact of the matter is we have really icy conditions a lot. So the e-brake setup is based off 2 of the same cables, which then run up, sorry, fill in alone, run up here, up to where the normal e-brake would have run. I just basically took one of the stock bracket and I created one on this side as well. So it's exactly the same configuration over here. On the right hand side is on the left hand side. They are a little bit custom brake lines, but they're perfectly fine. Let's move up underneath so we trace it all the way forward. So here we're going to move just a little bit further, and both those two brake lines come together. It's going to make it a little bit hard to see this, but this is very similar to the bracket that you guys are looking at. Mine's custom. I just bent up and welded a couple things out of 1/8 inch steel and drilled some holes in the floor and bolted it on here. You put a lot of force on this bracket, so it needs to be fairly sturdy. And then this guy right up here is just some channel that's welded on one side, other side, one side, other side. And then I basically just took the stock e-brake cable, which is right down here that we're looking at, comes out of the bottom of the tub, and then poured actually a plumbing solder connection by fraying the end of the cable and basically just making another, I don't know what you'd call it, nub block, stopper block thing. It's nice and tight up in here, and so the cables that you guys are talking about, the routing is a little bit different than this guy. But I can tell you that I had this entire thing set up, and the only thing that was not connected was the rear calipers on it. And there's really no resistance whatsoever. The cables glide really nice and smooth. And so I don't think there's any binding issues with it or anything. It's just really, really hard. I can't make the back end of this vehicle skid. I don't know if that's because the rear Mustang calipers don't put out the same amount of force, but they work well enough to hold it on a hill or something. They just don't quite have the same power as the stock one. So I just wanted to bring it up in the discussion just to make sure you guys kind of covered that, because it wasn't something I really expected. I expected to be able to lock up the rear tires, and I haven't been able to pull off a setup that will do it with the Mustang calipers yet.